Would Lego themes be better served if they had storylines, or at least more available, well known storylines? This is the Geek Cabal channel. My name is Bobbie, and today we're going to be talking about Lego themes and whether or not they should have a storyline. Do they have a storyline? If they do, is it widely known? Things like that. Now, I'm going to focus primarily on like castle and space because they're the ones that seem to be varied enough that they could use them. Because like city, for instance, well, I mean, that's the modern day. Like there's no factions. It's like it's the police and the ambulance people and the fire department and the airport people and the occasional transport industry or mailman, gas station. There's people. Like it's not there's no inherent conflict that's visible. Whereas with castle, well, everyone's armed. There's definitely inherent conflict. And there's clearly different factions. For space, there are clearly different factions. It's debatable as to how armed they are, but there's definitely different factions. So, throughout the years, there's been, depending on which sets we're talking about, going back to the 80s here, there have been hints of storylines, there have been implied storylines, like the original Space Police. I think a couple of their sets came with Blacktron figures that they were arresting. So, this being a children's toy, it's safe to assume the Blacktrons were meant to be the bad guys. Now, I mean, as an adult, we can go into things like, well, maybe they were falsely accused, or something like that, but for the simplicity of a child's toy line, these guys were definitely meant to be the bad guys. And I think we even see them like pillaging stuff from the M-Tron group in some of the later, like kind of, there'd be like dioramas, big buildings and stuff that they'd built in the catalogs, not the sets, but like just big other structures they'd built and everything. And we know that in the castle line that the Lion Knights, or Crusaders as they've come to be known, were enemies of the Black Falcons. Like you can see it in the sets themselves because they're in sets fighting each other, but also again in like the kind of background imagery used in the catalog, we have this. But we have no idea like who each faction actually is. We don't know anything about them, don't know who their leaders are, don't know the source of the conflict. I mean, we don't know anything. Then we fast forward a lot and we get like to the fantasy era, and the humans seem to kind of be aligned with the dwarves, and the two of them are definitely against the skeleton army because they're the undead, and definitely against the orc army because they're orcs. They never did get around to introducing elves. There they actually did have like a poster that had the different kingdoms, and the elf lands was on there, but they never got around to it. And so like for other sets, like say Star Wars, well, it's easy. You know who's on whose side. Depending on the era, it's either the Rebels versus the Empire, or the clones versus the battle droids for the two dominant eras. And Lord of the Rings, we know who the good guys are. We know that if you're an orc, you're probably a bad guy, with an Nazgul, whatever. So you had kind of storylines, and then other things did have storylines, but you didn't find out about them unless you went to really specific places. Like Chad, it blew my mind when I found out Rock Raiders should technically be part of the space line. Like, I always just assumed that they were on Earth and just really deep underground. But nope, apparently they were on a spaceship that crashed. Like, I don't know where in anything related to them is anything talking about that other than buried in a video game. So that's kind of the other part, is that I know that there are storylines for some of these things, but they're in like some one-off thing that was only available at like an airport in Germany or something. That's hyperbole, but you hopefully get my point. And so if there's going to be something, it needs to be actually available, even if it's just like a couple pages of a comic book or something, and put it on the website. You can put it on Lego.com, get the kids to go there, check it out, and but give us something to work with, and I think that would help with sales if they were to bring, it looks like space is kind of coming back. If they were to do that like more aggressively, and if they were to bring back Castle, like, I think that would help, because I know that clearly helps with Ninjago, because there's a storyline, there are hero characters, there are villain characters. Now, I'm not saying I want to see that with these. A handful of like real characters couldn't hurt, I don't think, but it doesn't have to center around them. Like, they kind of tried that with Castle at one point with the well, you got a little bit of it with Nexo Knights. Actually, I guess you get a lot. We had named characters, and Nexo Knights I thought did well. It had 3 or 4 waves, and the sets looked good. It was essentially Castle version of Ninjago. And some of the sets are like weird techno castle hybrid things, but they're pretty cool in my opinion. I've got a number of them, and like, I think they were good, but I know that I might be a minority opinion on that. But they tried it before that too, and I think it was Knight's Kingdom, and again they tried to go make it like Power Rangers, but in the Castle era. And so it didn't quite work out, and people called them the Jelly Bean Knights, because they all had, distinct colored armor. Like, one guy had like all red armor and all green, and I think purple and a blue and something else. Interesting heraldry, though. But no, that's whenever I say this, that's not what I mean. Okay, what I mean is, like, say, give us some kind of story for the Crusader versus Black Falcons. What's the conflict about? It doesn't have to be Game of Thrones level. It could literally just be like, well, they've got a rivalry going back centuries, and it's just gotten turned to bitterness, and they're fighting over the same lands or something. Doesn't have to be really stupidly in depth. And then just give us a few character figures among the others. Have your generic armies, but then be like, here's King what's his name, and Queen what's her face over here. Here's the prince, here's the princess, here's the captain of the guard. Just some name characters that look a little, they have kind of a unique look. They don't have to be, again, they don't have to be Power Rangers-esque. We don't have to recreate Ninjago in the Castle realm. And go from there. Give us some nice distinct looking figures. Because in the past we've gotten some kings and queens and wizards and things like that. And we even had named ones. We had Majesto for quite a while. He's a wizard. And, do that. And same thing with space. It's up to Lego how conflict driven they want it to be, because it seemed like most space stuff was more about just, here's this faction, and here's what they do in space. And other than apparently Blacktron being the bad guys, necessitating the space police, most of the rest seem to be, there's the Mtron guys. They're all about magnets for whatever reason. Here's the Ice Planet guys. They like it cold, things like that. And, just having a more like cohesive narrative, like, why do the Mtron guys like magnet stuff? Now, that we're probably not going to see them with all their magnet glory, because they don't put magnets in kids' toys like that much anymore, because there's legitimate concerns. I'm not complaining, but if they were to actually resurrect it, like, there'd need to be a reason, and they'd probably have to give them a different reason why the name's called Mtron now. And like the Ice Planet, rework it a little bit so it's, these are guys that mine on icy planets, of which there are presumably a lot in the cosmos. They're specialized for cold weather stuff, and there's some rare element that's only on icy planets, and then you make the sets around that concept. digging things up, transporting, refining, some kind of scientific endeavors, things like this. Just make sure you give them their neon orange chainsaws, damn it. And, just things like that. And interject new ideas too. I mean, I'm aware I'm saying what I want to see, but like, I know we want to see new factions as well. Well, I think we do. Given the sales of the Wolfpack figure from the collectible minifigure line, maybe we don't. Maybe we really just need really well done figures from the old factions. I don't think that's the case, but I do think there's definitely room for new factions, because there was a poll last year about figures we want to see show up in this. It's a collectible minifigure gumball machine set they're going to make, and they were voting on like new ideas for figures that could be in there. And there was a couple space guys and a couple of castle guys with new heraldry and new colors. And the space guys were like old spaceman, like 80s, early 80s space figures, like Benny from the Lego movie, but without the cracked helmet, but in new colors. Like one was like a sea green color, if I remember right. I don't remember what the other one is off the top of my head. And then with the knights, one was that kind of color, and like the shield had like a squid head, like a kraken on it. And just the possibilities there, an outright naval faction, kind of like maybe like kind of Viking-esque, so give them some small boats and one really big boat. Make a seaside fort that they're going to raid, make it, the Lion Knights or someone else have the fort. These guys are coming up to attack it. Maybe they have a seaside castle somewhere, things like that, things we just don't see in Castle, or haven't traditionally, because we don't see a whole lot at the moment. But anyway, I think that if they were to create an actual narrative and back it up, either some writings or a comic book, and again, it doesn't have to be ongoing. It could literally just be like a couple pages of a comic that they just host on the Lego website. Either like actual drawing or like stop motion, guys and Lego people or something. Just something for us to work with. Some character names. Find out if we're calling the factions the correct names all this time, because some of them I think people just made up. Like, I have no idea what the guys with the crossed axes are called. I think they're just lumped in with the Crusaders, but they're clearly not Lion Knights like the rest of the Crusaders. So I don't know. The Black Falcons, that is purely based on the fact that their castle is called the Black Falcon Fortress. So that could have just been the name of the castle all this time. I don't think so. I think Lego fully embraced it at some point. But the point is, like, some of these guys we don't know. Others we do. Like the Wolfpack, we know it's called the Wolfpack. The Forest Men were called Forest Men in official sets, things like that. But just, a rundown of the existent factions, maybe alliances or who they're with or what they're doing, a little blurb about each of them, and then just add to it as you introduce new factions, assuming they go forward with new factions. And the same thing with space. Tell us how it all integrates. Was Futuron like the future of classic space and just like farther along because they've got the flip visors versus just the open helmet? And then is the current space, is that like the future of Futuron? Because again, it uses the same colored scheme and things like that. Are the Blacktron really the bad guys? Why is there a Blacktron 1 and a Blacktron 2? Why are they so different looking? Was there a faction split at some point? Why are there 3 different Space Police factions? Things like that. I think would help. It'd be a nice gesture to longtime fans also, and that could also solve part of the problem that people perceive with the collectible minifigures line, where if you go this route, then you can make some of the unique figures in the collectible minifigure, like the Black Falcons do not have a king or a queen. There you go, put them in there, and and maybe a wizard. Maybe the Lion Knights also need their wizard too, and things like that. And with space, who's the leader of the Blacktron? And is he the only leader of the Blacktron 1 or the Blacktron 2 or both? You know, who's our Generalissimo or whoever for the Space Police? I think they actually did. I think the Space Police 2 do have a commander figure, but you know, give him a name. You know, things like that. Anyway, I think it'd be interesting if they would do that, but maybe I'm just spinning my wheels here. So anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Is this kind of thing warranted? Is this a waste of time? Is it only worthwhile if they bring back these kind of sets like we're used to seeing from the past? You know, anything like that, just let me know down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Sharing and commenting would help us grow the channel. We always appreciate it. But yeah, other than that, just remember, keep those bricks clicking.